Well, hi, everybody. I'm Bobby Carlton. I am a writer for VRScout. I am also a judge for the VR Awards. I've been doing this judging panel, I believe, since 2017, and I've been with VRScout since 2016. Of course, it's really looking at traction of where virtual reality is going, the technology, how it's evolving and changing, and of course, gaming is a big part of it. And so I'm actually going to introduce our guest today. I'm going to move over to Paul Brady, who's the CEO of Resolution Games. So come on up, Paul.
Hey, thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it. And
Yeah,
I'm the
of course.
president. I'm the president and one of the co-founders. CEO is Tommy Palm, just to correct that.
Oh, okay. The president and co. Like, I think I apologize. So
No. I just don't want him thinking I'm trying to take his job.
Oh, we don't want that. So so Demeo Games from Resolution Games, Demeo is they won VR Game of the Year, and so we're here today to talk about that, to talk about Resolution Games. And it's going to ask some bunch of questions and really sort of find out like what is the state of VR going, and just to get Paul's perspective, and just talk about Demeo, talk about the game itself, and talk about the company. So you want to do a quick introduction, Paul, and then we're going to play a video, and then we'll kind of jump right into this.
Sure. And thanks again, Bobby. Really appreciate it. Again, I'm Paul Brady. I'm the president, one of the co-founders of Resolution Games. I've been working mostly in marketing over the past 20 years, but started dipping into VR about 8 years ago, working with agencies, mostly public relations agencies and marketing agencies, launching other VR studios, both games and medical and animated film and all kinds of different elements in back-end technology for VR and AR before founding Resolution Games 7 years ago. And in the company, I mostly work with our marketing, our publishing, business relations, and stuff like that.
Awesome.
And yeah, so I guess we have the roadmap video to show you guys. This is something we published at the last update for Demeo, but it shows you a pretty cool glimpse into the future and what we have being this year. So we'd love to show that real quick, and then we can dive right in.
Sounds good. Let's take a look.
Demeo was released earlier this year, and the reaction from fans and critics alike has been phenomenal, including winning VR Game of the Year. The game allows players to fully immerse themselves into the adventure and experience tabletop games in a whole new way. Since then, Demeo has grown. After the first adventure, The Black Sarcophagus, the unforgiving sewers of Sunderhaven were added in The Realm of the Rat King, where players could further explore the Demeo journey. But that was still only the beginning. The newest adventure is Roots of Evil, which is available now. It takes place inside Drich Forest and is packed with deadly druids and hideous rootlings. Our group of heroes has also become a quintet as Malthus the Bard joins the fray. Let's take a look ahead at what's in store for 2022. In February, players will get to visit the brand new Player Hangout, where they can get together and have fun in between adventures, meet new friends, put together a posse, brag about your latest boss fight, or maybe try out one of the mini-games. Then, on April the 7th, we'll be welcoming a whole new party of players into the fun with the launch of Demeo PC Edition in early access on Steam. Demeo PC Edition will contain all adventures released for the VR version and supports crossplay so that friends can play together, both in VR and on PC. For the first time ever, you can invite all of your friends to join your party, even the ones who don't have a headset. Things will also get competitive in 2022 with the addition of an all-new PvP experience, where up to 4 adventurers can choose their sides and battle for victory. This will be a massive brawl for sure, and more information will come during the year. Want even more Demeo? Two new adventures are also coming to Demeo in 2022. And even more surprises are in store throughout the year. The journey that is Demeo has just begun. So grab your bows and swords and prepare for what's about to come.
Awesome. Awesome. That is pretty cool. It seems like there's a lot happening with Demeo.
Yes, indeed. For sure. We are not slowing our roll with Demeo.
So we talk about, here's the thing about, we look at VR games about being immersive, and you kind of taken the idea of like, how do we make the tabletop game more immersive? And what, I guess, were you a tabletop gamer when you were younger? And what was it about that you thought that we like it needs to be brought into a virtual reality type of experience?
Yeah, so a lot of us on the team grew up playing either, D&D, Magic the Gathering, or any number of tabletop games, like many other people, of course, and even still do today. And one thing that we've set out to do here was to try to recreate the magic that you get sitting around a table with some friends and playing a really good game. And we've actually seen a lot of that in the reviews and a lot of people talking about, beyond just the game itself and the graphics and what the actual fantasy elements are. It's that people seem to think that we really kind of hit something here with just the social element of very much recreating that nostalgia and it feeling very genuine. So that's what we set out to do. And we enlisted some really incredible help. The team grew over time. One of the creative directors ended up being Mike Booth, who you guys may know as one of the people behind Counter-Strike and the creator of Left 4 Dead and a lot of other notable things. And he's very big on multiplayer and co-op experiences. So being able to work with him and the other mixture of talent in the team to make some of this come to life, I think really helped create that perfect formula for making that magic come to life.
Awesome. So, and how long has Resolution Games been around?
We were founded in January of 2015, so over 7 years now. We were one of the first VR and AR game studios to come to market, and started off very small and frugally, and launched several games. We kind of focused out of the gate on mobile VR. Like where you clip your cell phone into your face, and luckily things have evolved well since then.
Remember what the first game was, or what was the first experience, like that first mobile experience?
Yeah, so our first major game launch was Bait, a VR fishing game that's now on Quest 2 as well. And but back then it was just 3DOF and on the Gear VR and some of the other Daydream platforms. And it's still today one of the most popular titles. I believe it has over 10 million downloads.
I'm if you want to ask a question, you hit the raise your hand button. Normally, I used to sort of wait at the end of the event to have questions, but we're going to ask questions throughout this whole conversation. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. We'll call on you, and you can ask any kind of question you'd like. So in the meantime, I'll let you think about that. So, and then I'll come back to you, Paul. So tell me a little bit more about Demeo. So obviously there's this roadmap. There's a lot more going to happen with the gaming. First off, how do you market a game like that versus these other immersive type of games? Is the marketing different from your perspective? What are the challenges of that idea of selling a tabletop VR game to consumers in this sort of virtual environment?
Yeah, it was really challenging because a lot of the traditional, I guess, analog tabletop fans really kind of hold on to that in-person experience and aren't as can be a little resistant to the digital format. And then VR takes it just one more step further. So we had to tread lightly in some areas and We also had a lot of doubts along the way too, not internally, but it seemed like some people were kind of a little hesitant to believe that something like this could be successful for VR. And what's really cool and what really helped with the marketing too is that I think it was our 14th title that we launched. And so we accumulated a lot of experience in marketing and publishing games by that point. And also, we ended up having to innovate too, and finding some things that really worked that I think we're going to carry into the future quite a bit. Because a lot of this happened during COVID, and before that, we were able to go to trade shows and show people the game and sit down with them and demo it, which is super important for a social game like this. You need 4 people, and you need to explain the experience and get them in a headset, and that really helps to be in an event to do that. And since we weren't able to do that, we worked with some influential game developers to create first impressions videos and try to just like push those out so everyone could just get the sense of what people who were kind of credible in the space thought about the experience. We had folks like Felicia Day and John Romero post, what do they think about this? Anyway,
what was it? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we took a very holistic approach to market it. Everything from advertising to heavy public relations pushes to ensuring that our storefront presence was just right on point when it launched, and a lot of community relations work. This title being multiplayer and the need to bring people together at a certain time to play together really was a heavy community relations effort to get that sort of unity. Right.
And obviously starting a VR company, right, or a gaming company, I mean, there's a lot of, it's like starting any other business. And I'm sure there's people out here who either think they might be a developer or they might have a game idea that they're trying to market and trying to sell it. And so from your perspective, do you ever talk with developers and look at their games and give them feedback, or like, what is that process like? Like, I know you're not a developer yourself, but what is that process like as someone running a gaming company of looking at an idea and bringing it into reality?
Yeah, I mean, I do volunteer with some incubator type programs for the games industry, where I help mentor, I guess, a little bit here and there, mostly on the marketing and publishing side of things myself personally. But as a studio, internally, we have teams. We work with small teams internally. So we have 7 teams right now working on different projects, and those teams are basically kind of autonomous. They're their own little companies within the company, and we want that because we want them to be able to run the show that they know is going to work for that team. And so what we'll do is we'll typically prototype several different experiences, and then whenever we feel like there's a team consensus that they're really onto something that at least they're really passionate about, we'll evaluate it and commonly push it on to the next level of putting a ton of resources behind it and making it a launch prospect.
Right. And of course, with Demeo, so you guys won VR Game of the Year. What was that like for the company? What was it like for your employees to walk away with this award? Like, did you think here's the thing, that the field of nominees had some amazing virtual reality experiences.
Yes.
So when you walked away, what was that like, and how did your team sort of react to that?
Everyone's so honored and proud and humbled by it. I mean, it took a long time for us to publish this game. We put a lot into it, a lot of changes, a lot of difficulties to overcome, and uncertainties, of course, given the state of the world during the time that we published it. And so when you're working on a game for that long, it becomes this marathon where part of you wants to put it down and move on, and part of you wants to isn't sure what's going to happen until it launches. But luckily, we had some indications that it was just feeling really good and working. And I think when we launched it, we knew that we were onto something. We just didn't know how big. And I think we actually felt that it wouldn't be as kind of momentous as it became. But very, very happy that it did.
Yeah. And I guess, that there's always that question of like, again, we saw your roadmap, but I mean, what does that mean for a I mean, first of all, do you consider Resolution Games a small developing company or game company, or do you what's where do you kind of put yourself with a pack of other companies?
Yeah, so our teams individually are very small, and as I mentioned, they kind of almost like their own little companies within the company.
Mm-hmm.
But as a whole, we're over 150 people now. So that may make us one of the largest, if not the largest, VR specific game studios. So we've grown quite a bit. A lot of that growth has happened in the past year, as we've seen a lot of the device market take off, and we're kind of accelerating along with the growth of the market. And so I would say that we still kind of operate very humbly and nimbly like a small company, but we're kind of growing and building a portfolio, hopefully, that will rival large publishers at some point.
Yeah. And but again, okay, so we're going to jump into the pen because we actually have a question. We have Jeremy Rawl. I'm going to give you the megaphone. If you want to ask your question, go ahead. Hey there, Jeremy.
Oh no, I didn't have a question. Sorry. I was just saying hi to friends.
Okay, hi. All right, let's go to Ben Dyer. Ben, do you have a question?
It turns out I was the friend that he was married to, so.
Oh, okay. You guys are raising hands. All right, no problem. Okay.
Well, hey, if you guys are buddies, you should play Demeo. It's a good way,
yes.
to come together.
If you have questions, I please raise your hands, and we'll absolutely call on you. You can ask Paul any question, and he will do his best to answer them. So,
Bobby, if I can add on to what the question you were talking about earlier about the company size, one thing that's interesting too is that after we launched Demeo, we actually ended up doubling the team size.
Really?
Mainly just because we wanted to quickly get more content into the world and into the game, and basically see what more we could do with it to really build it out as its own kind of Demeo world. That's why we quickly started working on the PC version, which just launched 2 weeks ago, and a lot of that kind of a bit of a selfish thing for us to try to help bring more people into VR. We felt if people could play with their friends on PC, then maybe their friends on PC would see how fun the experience is if you're in VR and how much more immersive you can get with it if you take it on with a headset. And that's why we launched the game to where if you buy it on PC, you get the VR version free, or if you have it in VR, you can play it on PC for free as well, and vice versa. But yeah, and also the new adventures, we feel it's important to keep adding adventures and to keep bringing content and heroes and characters, gameplay modes like the PvP mode. So we really, whenever all of that we make on our games, we put right back into the industry and into the games. Yeah.
That's very cool. Wait, so Stephanie, are you there? You have a question? Stephanie? No? Okay. No Stephanie. If it comes back and you have another question, we will call back on you. So let's talk about porting over to PC. First of all, how do you see the PC gaming industry? I mean, obviously it's been around for years. It's pretty robust. I mean, there's a lot of games out there in the PC market. How do you think that'll compare versus sort of VR gaming? Do you think it's kind of different categories, or do you see VR gaming growing to the point where PC games are, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, when we were preparing to launch the PC version of the game, we realized we were definitely in a different territory than what we've been used to the 7 years of publishing 8 titles on Quest and 5 on Steam, and just basically in a different league in regards to the massive amounts of PC games that there are out there. So luckily we weren't competing to create a big hit PC game necessarily. Our focus was on supporting the VR game and expanding that audience so people could play from wherever they wanted. I mean, of course, we would love it to see more PC players find Demeo, because we honestly feel like that it holds its own up against any other tabletop experience that you can play in any digital format. So we look forward to seeing that it grow there. But yeah, it is a very different world, and especially when it comes to publishing. And we do, and we feel like we brought some of the innovations from Demeo's VR version into PC. Like most PC games, tabletop games, you kind of just, like, for instance, click on the tile where you want your character to go. And instead we made it to where you pick up your character, you click on your character, and you move your character over. So it feels more tangible and like you're picking something up and moving it. And for the dice, we made it to where you click on the dice and you can kind of rattle it and shake it and roll it. So it feels like you're actually doing that action. That's something that's inherent to the experience we get in VR. And we wanted to kind of give a little bit of a taste to that to the PC audience as well, and try to bring a little bit of a new flavor for PC players, and hopefully get them into the even more sense of presence in the VR version.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting approach. That, I mean, and it's almost sort of, again, as you kind of mentioned, right? It's like taking that idea of like a game where you're in virtual reality, right? You're physically interacting with the game, and where the PC version, it is a physical motion, right? Your keyboard and your mouse, but you're sort of bringing this whole other layer. Do you see the possibility of other type of games like that becoming more interactive in the PC world, or even a sort of a merging of VR and PC, where maybe part of the game is in reality and the other part is in a PC? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think that it's really cool to be in an era where VR developers have been around for so long that they're actually starting to go and innovate on other legacy platforms like PC. But we also launched a game called Akron, Attack of the Squirrels, a couple years ago, where one person is in VR as a tree, and then there are up to 9 people on their mobile phones that are squirrels that are coming to try to steal the acorns from the tree. And it's kind of like a co-op experience for those on mobile, and a competitive experience between the people on VR versus mobile. So and the reason why we've always, is because we knew that in any given household, there would likely only be one person with a VR headset, and we wanted to give them an opportunity to be able to still share that experience of VR with people around them. And so basically we were trying to create more experiences for people to engage with VR without having to have a VR headset, because we know there were limited headsets in the market. And same goes for here. You know, we were hoping that it allows more people to come together and to play, and not being too restricted, but hopefully eventually kind of convincing them that the getting into VR is well worth it.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You mentioned that game, so I remember that. I mean, actually, I think I'm pretty sure VRScout covered that game, and I remember thinking, like, what an awesome concept, right? The idea of like one's in virtual reality, another person, and we have seen sort of a couple other games show up like that, where one's in VR and one's on a PC, and then you know, you start to think, like, what if like Pokemon Go is that way? What if, like, as a bunch of people are on their mobile devices facing like somebody was like nearby in virtual reality, you know, being part of that experience, and so yeah, I think that's pretty interesting thought about this idea of merging the sort of the entry point of gaming. Stephanie, I'm going to call on you again because I think your hand's up. Are you there?
I am. I don't know if you can hear me now. I had
yes, we can hear you.
Yep. PC for the first time, and I was like, usually I'm in VR, so it's a whole new experience on desktop. I was curious, in terms of you've moved to PC, but are there any other platforms that your team is interested in moving towards, like the Switch or the Steam Deck, or going back to the idea of bringing people kind of around a table and putting it on like the Tilt 5 system?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. We definitely our goal is to be able to get Demeo wherever the players want to play it. So, and also not to force them to have to come into VR to play it. For instance, if they have a Switch and they want to play it on their Switch and then put the Switch down and go put on their VR headset and get a little more immersive with it and go back and forth. We want them to be able to experience it the way that they want to. The only reason why it isn't everywhere is because it takes a lot of effort and resources to every time you take a new platform, and also it can complicate the development process quite a bit when you're launching updates in a live game like this, where everything has to work across every platform every time. There's a lot that goes into that process, and then ensuring that the experience doesn't crash for any one given platform if there's any little tiny mistake. So every time we do that, we have to really put a lot of effort and time into it. But we do hope to, even maybe AR at some point. We actually announced in November that we launched an AR studio, and we're putting more efforts towards digging into the upcoming AR tech too. So we see a lot of platform potential for Demeo, and hope that it can succeed there as well, like it has in VR.
Very cool. I thought, Stephanie, that was a great question. And actually, it kind of made me think, is like, does the popularity of a hardware, whether it's a Steam Deck or a Switch, does that sometimes drive the direction of where a gaming could end up as a platform, on a platform?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we get excited about it too. We're really excited about the Steam Deck for sure. We've actually seen Demeo players playing Demeo on Steam Deck on their own. They're just trying it out. Of course, it's not completely customized for it yet, but we do see people doing it anyway and enjoying it there, and still being able to have a pretty good experience with those limitations. But yeah, I mean, we get excited about new hardware as well, and we just have to make sure that there's enough, that the tools are there that allow us to easily kind of port over the content, that the device is mature enough, or that the market is there to justify bringing it over.
Very cool. We have another question. We have Maura. Is it Maura? Rose?
Moira.
Moira. Hi, Moira. I apologize. Go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, apologies if it's already been asked or discussed, but I was wondering if there's plans on making it a non-cooperative version, so more fun for like two people to just play against each other.
Yes, we're launching a PvP version this year, where our hope is there's been people who have kind of really aced using the different hero classes, and they want to test their mettle against their friends and see who's better at controlling the bard or the sorcerer or whoever they want, and going at it. Hopefully, we don't make enemies. We can keep the friendships alive, but we were kind of skeptical about doing that too, and we weren't sure it could work. And then once we got our hands on the first build of it, it was pretty clear that this can be really something special. So we're excited to get that out in the market.
That's okay.
We plan to have it out this year.
Nice.
This year?
Yep.
Of building a game, right? Again, the storytelling aspect. What's involved with that? Like, do you work with storytellers? Does the team sort of get together? Like, what is that process like?
Yeah, we have an incredible lore writer on the team, but also it kind of does happen a bit organically as a team as a whole. And part of it becomes just this process of learning from the first levels. The first level was very dark and had tall walls, and we wanted to explore what would it be like to have a brighter environment. That's why the Roots of Evil was more of a forest environment. And we also have another adventure coming out very soon. You guys might even see the community manager teasing it a bit this week. And a lot of that's just kind of like So it was actually kind of conscious. Some games come out and they tell you what the story is and what the background is. And we intentionally wanted to leave it a little bit open so players could actually fill the gaps on their own. And we weren't doing that work for them. We were letting that group of friends decide, what does this feel like to you? What does this story feel like? How can you make up the magic behind it? And we hope that they've appreciated that. We've seen from some people that they would prefer to see the story, hear the story. And what we hope is that with the players, with the community, and with the games team as they're developing it, that it happens a bit organically and it starts to kind of just fill out on its own and become clearer and clearer over time.
That's awesome. It's interesting, you know, you're talking about, like, you know, players. And have you ever run into someone who's playing your game and have, like, they have no idea that, you know, you're with this company, and they tell you about it, and you're just like, oh my God, like, my company built that game. Has that ever happened? I know you were just at South by Southwest, and I know there was a lot of conversations there.
Yeah, and at GDC too, we'd have people, oh, I love that game, Demeo is awesome. And it's really fun, especially being in the VR industry, because we've been doing this for 7 years now, and at no point have we ever felt like like celebrities at any point. But it was finally cool just for someone to even like recognize and know something that you've worked on, and also we finally are like printing shirts and stuff like that, so people can see, oh, Demeo on your shirt, cool, I play that game, it's great. And we were at PAX too, and we were actually pretty surprised, the PAX East show in Boston, how many people there were familiar with Demeo. So it is a very, very lovely surprise when that happens.
Yeah, do you find like those conferences, those gatherings? You know, I mean, here you are, a gaming company, you know, based in doing virtual reality work. You're in the VR industry, but yet, you know, here these conferences are coming back. Do you find them to be very helpful in sort of marketing your games and connecting with people?
Yeah, I mean, events are really important for us, and for getting, especially VR. VR is one of those things where you have to see it to believe it, or to see it to really understand how amazing it is. And so lacking that for the last couple of years has been not terribly helpful for marketing. So we're really excited to have the world kind of coming back together at these trade shows and events, and being able to see the community and the games world again, and to be able to share our experiences with them so that they can truly see what they are before they dive in and make a purchase or try to download the game. Oh, there's another reason why we wanted to do the PC version too, just to make it more accessible so people could experience it and see it whenever they may not be able to put on a VR headset. Because sometimes when someone's trying VR at a trade show, they don't have a VR headset at home,
right? But
they do have a PC at home commonly, and so giving them that ability to kind of their way into the industry, and hopefully is something we can achieve with that.
Yeah. Well, you know, speaking of hardware, right? I mean, obviously hardware is evolving all the time. You know, the Quest 2 headset, and then there's, you know, the Cambria, there's, you know, HTC and Pico. All these companies are always iterating and designing and trying to really sort of put out that next sort of headset. But at the same time, mobile devices are changing and evolving. You know, and we're starting to see, you know, Rec Room, for example, is accessible through your mobile device. Do you see your games being a mobile platform at some point?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the game, really. You know, with Demeo, for instance, it might be challenging because the way people consume game and play games on their mobiles is very different than in VR. In VR, you're obviously very engaged with the content, and sometimes when you're on your mobile, you're a little disengaged. You're maybe in transit. Maybe your connectivity is cutting in and out a little bit more. Maybe you're in line somewhere, or someone comes up to you and starts talking to you, and you get distracted, or you have to like jump off to something else. So what we wouldn't want to do is put people together where there's an engaged audience in the same room, in the same table or game, as possibly a disengaged audience. So we think about those things a little bit carefully, but absolutely excited that what's happening with the space right now. I mean, it's talk about an incredibly exciting time, having Sony being on the horizon of having a next generation VR headset, Pico seemingly really ramping up efforts, and also just everything that's happening with Meta, and they've really done an incredible job of innovating in the space and taking things to the next level and really doubling down and getting people access to VR. So I couldn't imagine a time that seemed more kind of hopeful than now.
Oh yeah. Well, question for you: do you remember your very first VR experience, and what was it like?
Yeah, actually, it was definitely a cardboard experience, and it was like a roller coaster ride, which was probably like the worst possible thing to try for the first time.
Yeah, the worst.
Yeah. So, but I was convinced that there was something magical there. If people put more intention behind the type of content and the graphics, and we've always been very intentional about that. That's why we're very specific about the locomotion in our games and making sure that, that what we do will not increase motion sickness impact, and just basically making sure that we keep the frame rate high and that people have a good experience in the content. And it was very intentional for us too to have our first game be a fishing game. At that time, early days, a lot of the content that was coming out were people trying to focus on like zombie or shooter or scary content. And we thought that at that time that there's going to be a lot of people being exposed to VR for the first time, and we needed to try to fill a gap of providing content that people could find relaxing and familiar. Fishing, everyone's been around fishing at some capacity in their life. So trying to bring some familiar into this kind of very alien new technological space for people to experience what we thought was important.
Yeah, I mean, I still to this day, I mean, I actually jump into VR fishing a couple times a week. I definitely still enjoy it. Between meetings, or I just have a moment, I will just go out, go fish, and have a great time. You're right. It takes out that idea of motion, and so I mean, I guess some people get VR sickness, but that was like a big roadblock in the very beginning, and so I think that was really great idea was to do that. What do you think what are the roadblocks for VR? What do you think those could be, or are?
I mean, it really feels like we're at a point where a lot of the roadblocks have been taken off. I mean, we can definitely do more amazing things if things like eye tracking and foveated rendering and the devices become lighter and the batteries become even better. As those things start to shape up, we're going to be able to put more graphics into these wireless headsets. We're going to be able to make the experiences a little bit better. And there's a long way to go with even like some of the tools that we use, Unity and PlayFab and Photon and all these. They're still working on them. They're still getting up to pace a bit. So once everything's kind of running really, really smoothly and has been really worked out by the players and by the other developers like us, I think we're right there though. I think it's just fine tuning at this point, really.
Yeah, I agree. Is there a game right now it's just blowing your mind that wasn't made by Resolution Games, but is there a game out there, an experience that you just can't stop talking about?
Well, I personally am a fan of the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. It's just it's something I had a lot of fun with myself. Yeah, and but yeah, there's a lot of different types of content out there. I think that we need a lot more though. I think it'd be great for us to have triple the amount of high quality games that we have right now. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, and yeah. Anyway,
we need to get developers working. If you're a developer out there, we need more content. So
please
you get out there and so when it came to Demeo, right? So I want to really focus on the fact that you guys are VR Game of the Year. When it came to Demeo, like what you were talking earlier about how when you were working on it, your team really thought like you saw something there. And what was it? What was it that you guys thought like, hey, I think we're onto something?
I think it was the VR feel like they're really there. I think when we got to that point to where it just feels like I'm sitting here in front of a board game and I'm able to reach down and grab this piece and I'm talking to you, you're sitting right next to me, and I see my other friend across from me and another to the right. And whenever it just came together that like, because we actually, in the whole development process of Demeo, we did a lot of the development and ideation and strategy and syncs in Demeo as well. So as soon as we were at this point where we were in those meetings and we were like, wow, this feels like we're playing a board game in real life together. It was kind of, then it just became like, let's lock this in and let's fine tune it and polish it and let's get it out there so everyone else can experience this too.
So you and your team were kind of creating the game and developing the game while playing the game, essentially, in a way?
Yep, we'd have like regular times a week play sessions where we would we'd play a game session while we're talking through changes that might need to be made or things we need to fine tune and fix. And a lot of times we'd be playing with Mike, who's based in California, while the rest of the team is based in Stockholm, Sweden. And we had to do it in some sort of virtual environment. And rather than doing it over Zoom or something like that, we'd rather do it inside of Demeo.
Did you find that process just being like a great workflow? Obviously it did. I mean, you a great product, but was it the ideal way in the beginning, or were you thinking like, we need to have a face-to-face or like, let's just iterate and design inside this platform?
Yeah, it was intentional from the beginning. I think we just wanted to kind of force us to spend as much time in it as possible and make sure we were there when we saw it unlock, that it really felt genuine.
So when you're doing something like that, so is the idea to create the environment where you have a multiplayer environment first and then sort of get the basics in there and then just kind of continually meet up, design and create this game. Do you see yourself working like on future projects like this?
Yeah, I mean, and first off, we make sure the gameplay works and we prototype as rapidly as we can the game and make sure that can work. Then we build the social experience around that and then start to iterate in that social environment oftentimes. And also, it was in that roadmap video that we just recently released last month, Heroes Hangout, which is actually a larger social hub. So in Demeo, you're actually in a basement environment with 3 other friends playing a board game in front of you, where you can like even scale into that board game at life size or scale out like a board game. But then you can also leave that basement into basically a hobby shop where there's kind of like the feel of like a D&D night going on. And you can meet people there who are also Demeo fans and play with them, start a gameplay session with them. And one of the thoughts behind that was that instead of having like these random matches for people, allow people this space to go in and meet other people that they might resonate with or that they might be building a relationship or friendship with, and let them kind of play with people that they meet and they know that they want to spend basically 2 hours with or so, because our gameplay sessions and average time spent is hours, not just like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So we really felt it was important to let people kind of get to know each other a little before they jumped into a game together if they wished. Also, you can go in there and you can play mini games and like little arcade games, or there's even like a little bow and arrow game in there. And there's also lore books. And we actually have another update coming out of other activities you can do in there in a couple weeks. So we're really trying to create this bit of a social hub experience that we call the Tinyverse. Where people can kind of come together around a common interest and build relationships and friendships and become regulars, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, you look at the PC game world today, right, where I have a friend who works all day, and the only time he really socializes is when he's jumping into a game and he's playing, and so social component of gaming, whether it's in a PC or VR, plays a pretty big role in that. And I personally think it's going to continue to grow. So with the resolution games, obviously you said you're about 150 people. You know, what are the next steps? What are the where are you guys going after this? Like what's happening with the company?
Yeah, we're gonna keep growing organically and wisely, of course, but we see that, you know, with all these new headsets coming to market, that there's now quite the audience size to be able to get more of our content and games out to and have people experience. So we want to do more, build more IP, build more upon the games that we've already released, update some too, but also we're making a pretty big investment into AR as well, because we feel like AR is kind of going to be one of the next steps in the visual computing space. And so we want to basically do what we can to continue adding IP and building onto the future headsets that are coming to market. We actually have a game, Ultimex, that's launching later this year.
Very cool.
It's another kind of sport-themed multiplayer title. And we'll have more modules coming for Demeo throughout this year, and another gameplay mode, and more hero classes, and a lot more. So we plan to just keep on bringing content to our experiences while building new ones as well. Awesome.
So we have like 10 minutes left, and so if anybody has a question for Paul, please raise your hand. We'll call on you, and you know, we'll get your question answered. We'll do our at least we'll do our best. I know I am not the guy from Resolution Games, but Paul is. He will have the answers, I'm sure. So for moving forward, and as you know, you talked about different headsets, and we talked about Resolution Games, and you know, the future of Demeo and everything. So what do you like to do when you're not, you know, being part of this company? Like, what do you do on your off time? What is something that you know, are you in virtual reality playing games, or do you enter the real world and are you active that way?
Yeah, I do a bit of both. I like playing games, but also after being at a desk or in VR all day, I also like to get out in the world. I live in Austin, Texas, so I tend to do, you know, lots of hiking around here. Also rock climb and try to move my body quite a bit. But yeah, and actually we have another game called Blast On that has a lot of movement into it. So when the weather is really horrible here and super hot, I'll oftentimes jump into Blast On for fitness. But yeah, that's about it. I'm also a parent, so I have basically zero time to do much of anything.
Yes. Being a parent, being a parent can take up a lot of time. Well, can you tell me a little bit about a Blast On week? So it's a actually I didn't know about this game. It's like a physical game?
Yeah, so Blast On's a game we released last October before last. It's a PvP dueling game. It's slow motion, kind of like Matrix style, slow motion bullet hell. So two players are on like a restricted platform. You can only move about 3 feet. You're on like a 3 foot wide circle basically, and you can't move off that or you'll start to get damage. And you're about 10 feet apart from each other, and you have an array. You can select kind of like deck building, what kind of guns emerge around you, and then you grab them and they respawn after you use them and throw them out. And basically you're shooting these slow motion projectiles at each other. It's they're all different types of projectiles, like orbs and these kind of lasers and different things like that. And so it requires you to contort your body and to be kind of dodging and bending and dipping and dodging while you kind of try to return the same and best each other. It's almost feels very much like a puzzle while also being physical. And that's actually how our Tinyverse idea came about, because people were playing it, but you could only like physically withstand 3 or 4 gameplay sessions before you were just spent. And then people were jumping out and going to another game. And we wanted to give them a way to come back in and to a social hub and talk to each other about the match and maybe find others who are interested in it and chill for a bit, and then go kind of back in and out, take breaks basically, and meet other people who are interested in the game. So we have it's called Ozo Lounge in Blast On.
Okay. And
Yeah.
do you find that social part will always be important with VR gaming?
I think so. I think it really helps with retention and engagement, and it's also something that we want people to be able to form communities around our games. So we want to give them that opportunity to come together instead of having to do it on Discord. Like, why should someone play something in VR and then have to go to a 2D platform to talk about it? We wanted to hopefully keep them in, or give them the opportunity at least to keep them in an environment wrapped around that experience.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, that's kind of what the whole point. I mean, as someone marketing a game or an experience, that's, the more you can keep them involved and the more you keep them engaged. So with the last 5 minutes, is there anything you would like to say, anything you'd like to bring up about Resolution Games, about Demeo, and let these fine folks know about your work or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to just reiterate that we're still building upon Demeo. We're kind of just at the beginning, we feel. We're going to be adding new adventures, new hero classes, some very soon, some later this year, and for years to come. And we definitely hope that we're doing this with the community in mind. A lot of the feedback that they give is what we're integrating right now. So if you are passionate about specific updates to come, please do speak up in the community channels and let us know. We really hope to always do these things with the community and not just in a silo of our own. So we welcome it. And also, if you have friends who aren't VR players yet, please have them try out the PC version, and hopefully we can get them converted to VR players, and then you'll be playing with them in VR in no time. And also, if you're a developer and you're interested in Resolution Games, please reach out. We're hiring like crazy right now, so we'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. So there you go. If you're a developer, they're looking for talent. So, well, Paul, thank you for spending this hour talking about Demeo and Resolution Games. And so can I get a round of emojis and we can thank Paul, and of course, we at AXR appreciate it, and the VR Awards, and we appreciate all of you. And again, thank you for coming out to this series, and please come out to the future series as well. And I wanted to thank Adam for inviting me to here and host. There's some information right there, so there you go. If you'd like to reach out and Paul, and of course, if you have any other questions, you might have a couple of minutes. I'm not sure how long you're gonna hang out, Paul, but thanks everybody, and we appreciate you coming by.
Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it.